Are you there, John?
Hello, yes.
Yes.
Hey,
Hello.
John. Thank you for calling.
My pleasure, as always. How are you guys doing?
Doing very well. It's been very busy. I don't know how many songs we've had. 57 songs requested so far today, and 56 of those were requests from all over the world.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I guess, there's an advantage to having really short songs, which is you can play more of them.
Yeah, unless you need to do a bathroom break. That's always the tough part.
That's the problem.
Yeah. I just had that issue because I wanted to make sure that everything was ready before you called, and it took me about 8 songs before I got a song over 3 minutes.
Huh. Yeah, I feel like there's like a major gap in our catalog that we should fill with like a really long, 20-minute, I guess, jam of some kind.
Oh my!
That would be good.
Like a can.
Just to
can
that one
jam.
Practical. Yeah, basically.
Oh.
Bathroom song.
That would be. I would love that. Either bathroom or time to go get your food quick. So donut, whatever. So, how is everything going in Minnesota? Are you guys? Is there like a blizzard or something over there?
No.
It's been snowing here all week, but not really accumulating. Nothing like what they're getting in Buffalo. We've had people that have been calling in, and they've already got 2 feet of snow.
Yep. No, that's crazy. It's just cold down here in New York City. It's not snowing. There's no threat of bad weather, but it did finally get cold after being like disturbingly pleasant in November.
Oh, I think we were about the same then. We went from a 67-degree day to a 20-something degree day within 12 hours.
Yeah. It's crazy. So you guys, I don't even remember saying this, but you guys apparently compiled a list of questions and sent them to me earlier this week.
I did, because we had folks that said last year John Linnell asked if you could do that, and I didn't remember it.
I don't remember doing that, but I don't remember most things. So, that's fine. I have the list in front of me, and I looked at it this morning and made a bunch of notes.
Oh, cool.
So there are particular things where I just, because I had my morning coffee and I was like, my mind was going. So there's some unnecessarily long rants that I had in response that are probably unrelated to the question.
But that is perfectly fine. That is perfectly fine. Well, that might make things easy. Is there a first question you want to start with?
Well, unfortunately, the first question has a one-word answer, the one that's on my list. But then it gets more complicated after that. Okay. So first, do we do this? Do you want to do the speed round right now, or
yeah?
Is that okay?
Sure.
Unless do you have something else you want to discuss beforehand? The demise of Twitter? Or,
well, it's certainly weighing heavy on our mind. The one thing that I did want to ask you is how the tour is going. We saw you play at the Fitzgerald in St. Peter. Incredible show.
St. Paul,
yeah, in St. Paul, sorry. And we saw that you just added, 16 dates today to the tour?
We've been encouraged by the fact that the shows have gone really well, and Bland, as you'll speak to him about this. I guess he's really bounced back in a big way from his car crash. So, I don't think he was completely healed up when we started playing, but I think it really lifted his spirits to go up on stage and do stuff and feel like his life hadn't been completely, stomped on by this car crash.
Yeah.
But he was able to, as you saw, he was able to get up and play guitar and sing, and obviously doing way, way better. So that was great. Yeah, really, really fun shows, and we have the full band with the horns and everything. So,
well, I have to say, Tim and I were fortunate enough at the Fitzgerald Theater to be in the front row center. which you spoiled me for any concerts for the rest of my life because it was so amazing to be right there, like feet away from you guys. It's very strange to be wearing masks and try to get across how much I'm enjoying myself. I wonder if you guys pick up on that because you can't see us singing along, even though I was.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I it's obvious people are into it. It doesn't matter that they've got masks on. As far as that's concerned, it was clearly a really enthusiastic crowd, and it was totally fun and fine.
We're curious if you remember at all seeing the people that were dressed in shirts that had KMSU, which is our radio station.
Yeah, I totally remember that.
Because that's Tom and Chantil sitting right here.
Oh, okay, yeah.
They were the S and the U.
You guys were up in the little box up or in the balcony there, right?
Yes.
Am I getting that right?
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
Yep.
See, I do remember certain things. I remember everything.
I'm impressed though because you know night after night there's so many things that you see and do. So, I'm so glad that the tour is going great. Everything sounded amazing, and seeing the full horn section was incredible.
Yeah, those guys are terrific. They're it really makes the show a lot of fun for us. Shall we get to it, or do you have
absolutely.
any other business? So the first question on my list here, which I don't know whether it's complete, it just says, do you feel like your lyrics have become more... This is from Laura C.
Okay.
She says, do you feel like your lyrics are more autobiographical and personal on your recent albums? And she gave examples, Quit the Circus and Brontosaurus, and I wrote the second song, Brontosaurus, so I could speak to that one. The answer is no. So that's the first one. Moving along, from Paul Z, it says, do you consider yourself gearheads? Do you look to buy the latest in instruments or pedals? Do you stick to the stuff you've used for years? For my part, I would say, like, I'm a little bit slow about upgrading my gear, but I have completely upgraded my stage thing in recent years to the point where now it's like a technical challenge to get it. There was some growing pains, is what I'm trying to say. I switched over to a computer-based keyboard setup, and it actually kind of messed me up a little bit in the very beginning. There were a couple shows where everything went completely down, but the thing I wanted to say specifically about gear is that I bought this. I am not a paid spokesman for this Brooklyn-based company, but I have this thing called an organelle. And it's really cool. It's just a little enamel metal box with buttons for keys that are made out of oak, I think. And it's the neat thing about it. It looks like it could be like the little Casio style keyboard, but it has a sort of programmable brain on the inside. And I am by no means a techie person, but it's just about at my level. It uses this really simple programming language on the inside that is called Pure Data. Some of your more techie listeners might know what that is. It's a sort of what do you call it? Like an object-based pure programming language where you connect little rectangles with wires to build yourself whatever it is you're doing. But these are all in
almost kind of sounds like a Moog with all the patch cords and stuff. Is it that kind of
like that? Yeah, and but then represented electronically rather than physically. So it's like a digital thing, and it has a tiny little microprocessor, which is probably like a Raspberry Pi or one of those kind of things living on the inside of it. Just like just a little circuit board with a chip on it, but but really, I don't know, just for some reason I'm really enjoying it. It's like really back to basics in terms of making sounds and programming, but you kind of get to do whatever you want. So I've just been I've been digging into, I've gone down a rabbit hole with that thing this past couple weeks while I've been home. And it's crazy fun.
Oh, that's
and it also wasn't super expensive, which I dig.
Mm-hmm. Even better.
And that was the Organelle?
It's called the Organelle. It's made by a company called Critter and Guitari. They're in Brooklyn here.
Okay. It sounds like one of your songs, the Organelle.
yeah, the Organelle. Well, it does sound like, or it sounds like something that I named after myself, but it's not at all. Anyway, so that's fun. I'm having fun with that. That was Paul Z. Question about gear. I feel like I'm just filibustering here. If you guys want to jump in.
No, this is great though, because a lot of people get their questions answered too. So. Yes,
that's the idea. Okay, moving on. Bella S. says, "What sparked your interest in photography? What equipment or cameras do you like to use?" So oddly, my son, like years ago, when he was like in the he was in primary school, I guess. He took a photography course, and I was helping him, explaining to him how chemical photography, film photography works and how to develop your own film. And it just I was just like sucked into this thing of doing home, film stuff, like developing and printing at home. And it became, because of that, it became a thing. And again, I'm Mr. Cheapy. So I was really into, like, you do not have to spend a lot of money to do this kind of thing. You can buy a lot of the gear you buy secondhand because it's just out there still, and
people aren't using it so much.
And you can just set it up in your bathroom, which is what I did. Set up a little collapsible darkroom setup you can put away when you're not using it, and you just have to seal up the windows so the light doesn't come in. And I mean, mainly I think for doing film developing, that's the easy part. Printing is a little more complicated, but again, not that big of a deal. So, and then she asked what the cameras are I have, and again, like, I got the cheap ones. I have a plastic Russian camera called a Horizon that takes pictures by swinging from left to right. The lens actually moves in a clockwise direction across the field and takes a panoramic picture that way. And it's just it's just like operates on there's a little like spring inside that makes the lens flip from left to right.
I don't know if you can hear it, but I think Tim is looking it up right now to get one.
We speak.
They're they cost like, I don't know what, a couple $100 probably for one of these, and they're really rugged. It's made out of like a tough kind of plastic, and the best ones I think are from like probably the 80s. They were made in the Soviet period.
Okay.
And they're really great, and they take beautiful panoramic photos. You can't really use a flash with one because it takes like a second for the thing to swing from left to right. So the flash would just make a vertical band of flash somewhere in the middle of the picture. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so that's fun. And then I have a more traditional single lens reflex, which is where the light bounces off a mirror to go into the viewfinder. And that's a Canon A1, which again is that camera probably costs like $50 or something like that. And I use that one a lot. And I also use my phone, which is digital, like everybody else.
Yeah.
The phone is a great camera, and of course you always have it with you, right? So, So that's cool. Moving on. Well, actually, Bella also wanted to know what she said. What songs have your son? What bands have your son introduced to you that you liked? Because I guess when I was on your show, I mentioned this thing about. I think we played when we were there. We played something by Neil Cicerega that my son had played for me.
Okay.
And the crazy thing, I can't remember if I told you this, but the completely crazy thing was that Neil Cicerega got wind of the fact that I played his song, and he on social media, he shouted out to my son, which absolutely blew his mind because he's a huge fan of this guy. He couldn't believe it.
Oh, that's super cool.
Yeah. He was over the moon. It made his month, I think. So the other band that Henry introduced me to was this band called Wolf Pack. Have you guys heard them?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I guess they're probably well known. I'm like really the last person to hear about everything, but he's a huge fan of that band, and they're great. They're like, kind of funky and kind of technical, and maybe a little prog. I don't know.
Sure.
How would you describe them?
No, I think that sounds about right. Yeah.
Okay. Kalila M says, how did you get turned on to using microtones? What is your favorite seldom used instrument? Well, I can answer the first half. Microtonal music is music that involves tones that are between the cracks on the piano, you might say. Like they're not the regular 12-tone equal tempered scale that we use in Western music, that everyone's familiar with, that you get from a piano or a guitar. They're the notes in between, the pitches in between. And some of your people may know that John and I have done some songs where we use these other funny notes that aren't available on the regular scale.
I had no idea.
Yeah, it's cool.
What are some of the songs that you use that in then? If one comes to mind.
So there's one track called Dog, and it has a piano with like a whole range of retuned keys. I think that my memory is that there's 31 notes to the octave on that particular track. And so there's a lot of funny little, very slightly out of tune sounding notes, which are, they're not any more out of tune than the regular notes, but they're just using notes that may be unfamiliar to listeners. So that's Dog.
Okay.
Let's see what else. So there's a song called Flo Wheeler, which was part of the Escape Team set of recordings that we did, and that also uses, I think, again, it's like probably 19 tones to the octave rather than 12 or something like that.
Wow.
So these are all equal temperaments, but they're not the one that we normally use here in the Western Hemisphere.
That's blowing my mind that you're making a song of notes that we're not ever accustomed to hearing.
Yeah, that's a good way. That's a succinct way of putting it.
That's crazy.
so I can tell you, because what she said specifically was, how did you get turned on to using microtones? And the long, tedious answer is that John and I moved into this apartment when we were first moving to New York, and there was this guy named David Lindsay who we wound up playing music with. We kind of, the three of us played together a bunch. And he had done this thing which was just so from out of complete left field for me, which was he played a upright bass, acoustic bass, and he had taken nail polish and applied it to the fretboard of the bass, showing where all these scale tones were that he could put his fingers on, that were completely, those in between the cracks kind of notes. And he was using like different colored nail polish to do this, so he could see what he was doing. And so when we first went and checked we went to his apartment and showed us the bass. I was like, "What the hell is that?" and he explained it, and he showed me a book that he was reading by Mr. Harry Parch, who is one of the original popularizers of microtonality.
Okay.
And Harry Parch was someone who made his own instruments. He built instruments. He was a gifted carpenter and builder, and he was able to build an entire orchestra's worth of microtonal instruments. And he wrote this wonderful book, which I just devoured after Dave loaned it to me, and I still have my copy that I eventually got. And it's called Genesis of a Music by Harry Parch, and it's mostly about his adventures in microtonality, but he also gives a whole really elaborate history of the evolution of Western music, and he goes into all the mathematics of his personal scale. He has a 41-tone scale, I think, or 43-tone scale maybe, that he created, and it's just a whole universe of stuff. And obviously, a lot of people don't have that much time on their hands. It's like a kind of a major project to even crack open this book and try and understand it. But I was like a young person. I was 20 or something, and I just got way into it at that point, to the point where I almost destroyed my synthesizer by trying to modify it so it could play microphones. I got the sort of extra electronics to sort of patch back into it to try and change the tuning of it. And at some point I finally shorted its brains out and by doing that. But that's just how obsessed I was with this at that time. You guys want to say anything?
Sorry,
yeah,
we're really
feel like
thriving on the awkward pauses.
Because if you want, we can just list them because it looks like you're going in order. Because I feel like you shouldn't have to ask the questions and answer them.
If you like, yeah, go ahead and you ask them.
And if you don't have an answer for any of them, that's fine. We can just skip over them.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah.
So from John K., he asks, is there any update on the vinyl release of the super-fueled Freaksicle you mentioned last year?
No, not as far as I'm aware, but you could pose that to John Flansburgh.
Okay.
And he might have an answer. I don't know that we are doing a lot of vinyl re-releases of stuff.
Yeah.
But we haven't talked about that one. I don't know whether that's on the docket.
Okay. And Stephen H. wants to know, is it different touring with the full horn section? And is there any funny stories you might like to share from the recent tour?
I should say, I love these guys. They are so fun to tour with. And basically our experience with the horns is that when we're at rehearsal, they do nothing but crack each other up, and it is sort of like the other five of us are just like these stern judges by comparison. We're sitting there while they are just nonstop laughing at really dumb jokes. But it actually really makes the process a lot of fun. I should say with Dan Levine that I when I first met him, I think we'd done a whole rehearsal. This is 25 years ago when he first played with us. That we got in a van to go do some local show, somewhere, and I sat on the bench next to Dan. And the first thing he said, I hadn't really spoken to him. I didn't know him very well. And the first thing he said, he turned to me and he said, "You've done nothing but complain since this trip began."
It's a great icebreaker.
That's
so then did he find you?
Typical kind of, it was like typical Dan humor. Like he all these guys are funny. I guess for a while, I hope this is okay for me to reveal this. Stan Harrison, our sax player, was considered the master of the most obscene humor of anybody that we knew. Like he would just say the most freakishly dirty joke, but that was again, it was just like another flavor for the hilarity of the tour bus or whatever. So the point is, they are really talented, incredibly expressive and great and wonderful on stage, of course. But also they are just a riot to be hanging out with.
On their off nights, they go do stand up.
They could absolutely do that. Yeah.
Well, Isabella A. has a question for you. Do you primarily use the main squeeze accordion on the recent albums?
I have a few other accordions, and I would say the main squeeze is a good workhorse for the stage, but I like the tone of some of these other. There's like a little accordion that I use that has a kind of sweet sound, and then historically I've used a lot of it. So I actually because I moved my studio this year, I went through my accordion collection and got rid of a lot of them because I accumulated a bunch, and it was just ridiculous. Like I had way more than I just felt like I don't need this many accordions. So I sold a bunch, and
Did you put like somewhere on there a little placard saying this was played by John Linnell? They Might Be Giants.
Well, it's funny you say that. I one of them was I had bought in the early 1980s, and I think it was the first accordion I ever bought, and I sold it to this guy I know who is obsessed with They Might Be Giants gear and has made his own replicas of some of our stuff.
Wow.
He's a super interesting guy. Another person who's really good at making things, like Harry Parch. And he opened up the accordion and he found where I had written my name on the inside, obviously back in the early 80s when I bought it.
Oh, cool.
And I think even the date when I purchased it, which I don't remember doing, obviously, but yeah, he took a picture of it and sent it to me.
That's pretty cool.
So for all those people out there buying accordions in the world, you never know. Open them up and have a look-see.
Just make sure you can put them back together.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that is good advice. They're hard to put back together.
Sophie M. wants to know what your favorite historical period to read about is.
Right. Well, we talk about books all the time.
Yes.
When I talk to you guys every year, and I always forget what I've told you already, but I start way more books than I finish.
Sure.
Probably a lot of people will do that. Like I like books, but then I get a little ways into it, and then I get distracted, and then I read some other book. But I think I told you this already. I finished the Jill Lepore book about America. It's sort of a sweeping history of American politics called These Truths. Or is it true? Is it pronounced truths? I don't know. Jill Lepore, These Truths. That was really good.
Okay.
And I have like Howard Zinn on my shelf here, and I started reading the French Revolution by Carlyle, and that's like one of those books that probably people get forced to read in school. It is hard to read because it's written in this crazy style where there's a lot of like words suddenly in capital letters, like he's like it's like you're falling asleep and he's trying to wake you up. But it's it's kind of, if you can get through it. I haven't finished that one obviously, but that's interesting. And I maybe told you this already, but I read this great Robert Graves book about the general under this Byzantine emperor. Justinian was the emperor, and his general was Belisarius. This is like in the 6th century, probably, or something like that. So there's a Robert Graves book about the general called Count Belisarius, which was great. I like reading about the Byzantines for some reason.
Well, a super long time ago, you came to Minnesota to a bookstore, and I was there, and you were going to play some music, and I got there super early because it was somewhere in the we're about an hour and a half south of the Twin Cities. I wasn't sure where I was going, so I got there super early, and I, of course, was looking at books, and I ran into you in the cookbook section and recommended a Thai cookbook for you.
Wow. That's crazy.
Think you bought.
That is really crazy. Well, that's probably like, I mean, it sounds interesting, but I feel like cookbooks are not at the top of my list of stuff I go for. I'm a miserably bad cook. Maybe that's why I was looking for cookbooks. But I don't remember that.
It was like 15 years, 20 years ago.
Yeah, what was the name of the store?
I can't remember which, because I think I've seen you twice in a bookstore.
Okay.
But I can't remember which book. It was a great bookstore, because it was a real homey kind of one.
I think I remember the place. You say it was in Minneapolis, right?
Yeah. Or a suburb.
Right. It was near one of those lakes that are like
yeah.
Yes. Anyway, I guess they're all near lakes. Whatever. That's funny.
But I remember being so like, oh, God, I had a book recommendation.
That's so weird. I don't remember the Thai cookbook at all.
And maybe you picked it up and you're like, oh, I'll pretend like I'm getting it, and then you ditched it.
Oh, yeah, maybe. It's like, oh, yes, thank you.
Weirdo. And I remember thinking, do I acknowledge that I know who he is? And I didn't. I just pretended like you were just somebody looking in the section.
That's fine.
And I was just there to be looking for a cookbook as well, which I could have been, because I love looking at cookbooks.
It's like, a friend of mine ran into President Obama in a bookstore.
Oh my goodness!
It was a weird thing where like Obama just showed up, and the weirdest thing was I had been in this exact bookstore with my wife, and then we left, and our friends who were trying to meet us came later.
So you just missed
it was like we missed each other, but then Obama came into the store with like one like Secret Service person or something, but otherwise he was just roaming around in the store, and my friend just couldn't help himself. He was like, "Hey, man!" Like very totally uncool, like not trying to play cool. And but I think Obama said, "Hey, man," back to him. Everything was cool.
Mm-hmm. And he's not washed his hand that he shook hands with since.
Yeah, probably not.
Well, let's see. Amelie asks if you were ever to write a book, what would it be about? And she suggested a hidden Brooklyn photo sites.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm never going to write a book, but if I did, because this is like I was like, well, what the hell would I ever write about? Mm-hmm. I would write an incredibly boring book, and it would be about ideas in music that have nothing to do with like that are just purely music theory ideas. Because I feel like nobody ever. This is a subject I'm weirdly into, and nobody ever writes about it. And also, there's not very good terminology about, like sort of like music theory ideas, and how they function and what they mean and what it's, what the experience is of listening to music.
That book might be pretty awesome because it would maybe make music theory not so scary.
not so theoretical.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's a problem because, like I said, there's not really a lot of good terminology, and occasionally you read people writing about. They're just trying to write about a melody or something, and everybody's kind of groping around, trying to find the right words to use, and the people reading it probably are not making any sense out of it anyway. And also, I think most people are not really that interested in the nuts and bolts thing, unfortunately. So that's why I'm saying my book would be incredibly unpopular and super boring. But like an example, here's a really simple example of like when you hear a melody in a song, but then the melody repeats, but then the chords are different underneath, and it gives you this kind of feeling of like it's this very intentional thing. The example this morning, the example I was thinking of was the Beatles song 8 Days a Week, where John Lennon is going, hold me, love me, hold me, love me. And it's the same melody, but then the chords are changing. And clearly that is the focus for John Lennon, for the Beatles. That's what they're getting across, is there's this idea that you can have the melody be static, but have the harmony be different. And it's like an argument he's making. He's saying something by doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And it happens in other songs too, like Please Please Me, come on, come on, come on, come on. Same melody, different chords going on underneath. And it was clearly, and like I think not even everyone listens to that kind of. Not everyone listens for those things. But to me, it's like this is what's going on in the song. And I feel like nobody ever talks about it. Why aren't we talking about it?
I feel like you need to write this book, actually.
I know, unfortunately, like I don't have the energy to write it. And again, nobody cares, really, unfortunately.
I think that's fascinating.
That is fascinating, though.
I think you're onto something. Maybe you just need a ghostwriter or somebody.
You know what I should do is just go on the sidewalk and rant about it in public.
Yes.
Soapbox.
That would be the thing. Like I'd shake my fist and be going, what about that? Why aren't we talking about that?
Make sure you don't wash for about a week before you do that, or shave.
So much of the raving street corner lunatic has been played, and I feel like this would be a fresh take on it.
This would be a fresh rant. Yeah. Anyway, so that's my book idea.
I would read that book.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, 100%.
And I will read the Thai cookbook, I promise.
Let's see. There is... Well, this one's pretty broad from Rose A. Is there a question that you've never been asked that you'd like a chance to answer? And this is your chance to jump on that soapbox.
Yeah. Well,
so feel free to be obscure or silly.
I get to just rant about random stuff. I think that it's really fun, and I think I've probably said this to you already. I like the experience of trying to learn a language without any hope of ever becoming fluent or even conversational necessarily. That I just like reading page 1 of the phrase book and kind of thinking about that. That is that's what I'm interested in.
So have you started every Duolingo and then dropped them?
I have started. It's funny you should say that. I've started every Duolingo pretty much. And I never get tired of it. It's like, oh my God, this is fascinating to me. But it's like, again, it's sort of like the last thing I was saying about music. It's really technical, and it's really just a weird fetish, I guess. That's I mean,
like you're cracking a code.
Like that it takes some of the sting off of being an old person. Is that you can spend all this time digging into completely obscure, weird stuff like that.
Well, and they do say work in your mind keeps the Alzheimer's away, supposedly.
We'll see. Or maybe it's just a
crossword puzzle.
Function of maybe I'm demented, and this is just like how I express it.
So Joseph D. wants to know if you've ever thought about making your own accordion.
No, I've never thought about making my own accordion. I once tried to retune an accordion because I learned the principle of it, which involves filing the little vibrating metal reed. You file it in different parts of it, and that tunes it either up or down. So you can actually tune your accordion, but I just found it too hard, and I kind of made a big mess of it. And old accordions are put together in this amazing way. Some of them use like beeswax to glue the reed into the little cell that it lives in. So it's this ancient weird technology. I mean, probably contemporary accordions don't use beeswax, but the one I did, that's what it was, and I just made a mess of it, basically.
Lydia S. wants to know, she asked us several, but I'm going to ask, what are some of your favorite museums or art galleries to visit in New York City?
I don't know if I have a favorite. It's good to revisit ones that you haven't been to in a while, and there's a lot. And the Met is always good because it's huge. So you can visit different parts of the Met Museum. But because we're on the road, it's nice to go and see museums in other towns, and you can see whatever the big famous one is in some other city. That's fun.
What did you do when you were in the Twin Cities on your downtime? Did you do anything like that? I can't remember. I guess we were in a hotel and we weren't far from First Avenue, and I think I maybe just shuttled back and forth. I don't think we were there for long enough for me to get out and do something.
To get out and do anything. I'm not remembering. I know that at one point I visited the Fauché Tower, which is like this antique skyscraper. It's like completely obscured by all the other high rises, but it used to be the tallest building, like west of the Mississippi, I think, long ago.
Yeah.
And it's you have to look to find it because it's behind all these other skyscrapers, but it's like shaped like an obelisk. It's a really weird little building, but it's worth a visit. It's like it was an oddity even when it was built, I think.
It's one of those things that you just kind of take for granted because you see it when you go up to the cities. But yeah, I know I've been to the top of that. It's pretty cool.
You have? Okay.
Yeah. Let's see. And hey, gosh, we've had you on the phone for almost 45 minutes. So anytime you want to say, I've got to go now, feel free to do that because you're just being so generous with your time.
No, I'm fine. I figured I'd budget, and we usually talk for an hour? I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. Let's get to, maybe we can get through all of these then.
My phone is halfway charged up, so
we're good to go.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, we're good.
Ava M says, what was it like having to reschedule so many shows in the last few years?
Sucked.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I will say this. Thank you so much for just not canceling.
Well, I don't think it was not really. It was neither a fun idea nor actually a smart idea, and we luckily were in a situation where the people who had bought tickets overwhelmingly were holding on to their tickets rather than wanting their money back.
Mm-hmm.
Which I
held on to mine.
Understand. Like if you'd sort of decided you wanted to see a band, and then they said, well, you can have your money back, or we'll play again in a year or 2 years, that you maybe would feel like, well, I'd rather just hang on to the ticket in that case. And that was really great, actually, because we would have also had a tough time in our pocketbook. Would have been hit pretty badly if everybody had demanded refunds.
Oh yeah. No, I had tickets for 3 different things, and you're the only band that rescheduled. So,
really?
So thank you for that. Yeah, Nick Cave did not reschedule, and Bonnie Prince Billy did not reschedule.
Oh, yeah. I wonder why not. It seems like an obvious thing if you can. But I mean, it was ridiculous in our case because we were doing the Flood anniversary tour. So the Flood anniversary was already like 2 years out of date by the time we came out and played.
Nobody cared that it was out of date.
Yeah, we were just happy to see you.
Yes. Yes.
Adam J. says that both of you guys seem to be really positive people. What are some of the most important things that you do to maintain your positivity? Or do you disagree?
I haven't. No, well, I don't know what John does, but I'm guessing he does something similar to me. I wrote a note here that just says compartmentalize tragedy. So that's in other words, when something horrible happens, you just put it in a place, and then you try and you put a little sign on it that says "Pardon our dust," and you walk around it, and that's how we. I think John and I are both good at compartmentalizing.
Peyton M. wants to know if there are any rabbit holes that you've fallen into lately.
Rabbit holes. Well, I talked about the two big ones, which are the organelle, which I really just got sucked into, and then also learning these completely useless little tiny smidgen of a foreign language that just purely out of curiosity. But I could talk specifically about my adventure, which took place over a course of a week or so, of learning Haitian Creole. Would you like to hear about that?
Wow.
Sure.
Did you have
said the old man. Want to hear about this?
Did you have a teacher, or did you do it online?
It was they offered a Haitian Creole course on Duolingo.
Oh.
And so of course I jumped at it. And this is the thing that I learned from just the very little that part of it is like, if you know any French at all, it's very similar. It's just a sort of Creole that incorporates French, but also has I guess it reflects some West African languages as well in certain ways, like more to do with the grammar. But the thing that was interesting to me is that Haitian is to me, what it came off as it's like a French version of Jamaican patois. And what was going on that kind of made my head spin was that in Jamaicans, I learned this from, I think, the Wikipedia article about Jamaican patois, is that you use the object pronoun instead of the subject pronoun. So in like standard English, you say I'm running, or I run. And in Jamaican, you say me run, right? So you're swapping in the object me for the subject. And Haitian does the exact same thing, only with French. So you say moi, which is their version of moi, when you would, instead of saying, I guess je, right? So this is, again, it's just like another like weird nuts and bolts thing that I was like, oh my God, how fascinating. And it just came up. The very first thing that comes up in the Haitian course is you learn these really simple phrases, but it's in other words, it's a patois that's very similar to Jamaican, except it's French instead of English. And I loved that.
So it's kind of a meme that Duolingo has kind of oddball phrases that are not really what you would say in real life. So have you ever been inspired by an oddball Duolingo phrase for a lyric or a song?
Yeah, inspired, amused, I guess, mainly. They're like obsessed with particular, like. Well, we talked about the Latin chorus, right? Because I did that whole Latin thing, and they're for some reason they keep going on and on about drunken parrots in the Latin chorus. It's like they're obsessed, and that's once you get used to it. Like, yes, I can tell you anything about a drunken parrot in Latin.
Well, I'm laughing a little bit because the next question I realized I put the wrong verbiage down. I asked Jackie H. wanted to know some of your favorite new wave bands, but I wrote new age bands, to which you probably went, none. None.
I saw that and I was like, wow, that sounds really interesting. I don't know any. I've never even heard of a new age.
How many Windham Hill records do you own?
Right. They're usually new age music is usually like one person, right?
Yeah, and a lot of electronic even.
Yeah, it was just like one person with a computer, basically.
Yep.
Or a singer, someone who sings. But anyway, I have no favorite new age bands.
How about new wave bands?
New wave bands. I love the new wave bands. What are my favorite ones? I mean, I should be able to name one. I guess I liked there was a greatest hits of The Cure that was like pretty jam packed. That came out back in the day. That's a good record.
Standing by the Sea.
Yeah,
that's a good greatest hits.
Yeah, there's actually a Sirius XM. Not to talk about your rival broadcasters, but there's a Sirius XM station called it's called First Wave, and they only play like Depeche Mode and stuff like that.
My boss will listen to that at work because I work at a record store, so he'll listen to the Sirius stuff before we open the store.
Really?
Yeah.
And so what's interesting is it's like. Well, I guess they play more variety on the weekends usually. In the weekdays, it's like the same playlist over and over. But it's kind of fascinating to hear these second string new wave things that I don't even remember from back then. Like some band I've just like, wow, I really missed out on whatever that is. But it's definitely 1980 or 1980, I guess.
Yeah.
It is totally from then, and it's kind of hilarious. Now it's sort of like. It's interesting now because it feels like, more like anthropological to go back and listen to that stuff.
Get into your synthy drums. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Is the Dial song No Answer really lost? Eddie R. wants to know.
I would say we have like millions of songs, and I mean, it's not lost. It's just there's a lot of songs. We don't put out every single song we write.
Sure, yeah.
But, we love them all. They're like our children.
Dave Q wants to know, how do you feel about all the podcasts that are out there that are dedicated to talking about your songs?
I haven't listened to any of them, so I don't know how I feel about all of them. But I will say, I suspect that, there's probably a lot of interesting stuff on them. I always feel like with the interpretive ones, where they're saying, what's this song about? Mm-hmm. And I've been hammering on about this for years, is that, and this sounds like kind of a spoil-sporty thing to say, but I always feel like the song is what it is. It's not. There's not some hidden meaning. I've said this over and over again. This is like a little tangent, but we work with this guitar player named Robert Quine, who's an incredibly talented guy who was in Richard Hell and the Voidoids, and he's played with a million people, and he was really fun to work with. Really interesting guitar player. And he had an uncle Robert unfortunately passed away. But Robert had an uncle who was a philosopher named W.V.O. Quine, apparently very, important philosopher, 20th century philosopher. And he also died, and I was listening to the radio when he died, and they had this was like on NPR, they had a whole thing about him where they had other philosophers talking about what was he on about, basically. And one of them was this guy, Richard Rorty, who's from Princeton, who said that Quine talked about language, and one of his main conceits was that when we say, what does a word mean, we're asking the wrong question. That his idea about linguistic philosophy was we don't examine the meanings of words because that's assuming that there's something behind the curtain, in a sense, like the word has some secret or hidden thing that we want to get at. And what he said was, it's really about how we use words, and that's what's important. So anyway, I'm probably misunderstanding Quine radically, and I have never read anything by him. But I kind of felt like this is also true of our songs, that the song is the thing. It's not like it doesn't represent something else, Mm-hmm. So there's not something off stage, in other words, that's like the real meaning of the song. The song is the thing. And I've said this a million times, and I'm probably to the point of like ad nauseum. But anyway, so like an annoying question that would be maybe more to the point would be, how does the song make you feel, or something like that, rather than what's it about? Because the song is about itself. The song is itself. It's already there, Anyway, so like I said, I haven't listened to any of these podcasts that you're talking about, mm-hmm. but I kind of feel like I'm imagining that there's this discussion about the hidden meaning of things, and maybe that's not true. And I should stop worrying about that.
Well, I know I was on, what is it? This might be a podcast, I think, where they just ask you to talk about songs, and I chose XTC versus Adamant. And I think I'd mentioned that even to you guys because I asked you which one you'd come down on the side of a couple years back. But that one you just kind of, I just talked about my feelings on the song.
Yeah, good.
So we never look for the deeper meaning.
Like, people can do whatever they want. And you know what? I got to say, like, some people have really hilarious and interesting interpretations of our songs. I'm definitely not I'm not coming down on that. That's great, But I just have my own personal thing about what does a song mean, By the way, did we say whether we liked XTC or Adamant more? I can't remember.
I believe both of you came down on the XTC side.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't want to.
I'm a little
Adamant's
biased.
Feelings.
Yeah.
But But I feel like I'm on the XTC side.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. So we've got one last question, and this is from an 8-year-old girl named Martha in Glasgow who wants to know what you would like to get for Christmas and wants to know if you consider yourself good at giving gifts.
Yeah, that's very sweet. I feel bad saying this, but I'm terrible at giving gifts because I feel like I mean, I should get over it, but I feel like it illustrates how there's a gap where the person that I'm giving the gift to knows so much better what they want than I know, and it's sort of like, it's just sort of exposing my lack of, even people I really care about, like I just don't know what people want, or I know that if I came close, it would still be like, well, this isn't exactly what I want, but thanks anyway. And I'm also terrible at deciding what I want. Or my idea for my gift is so specific that I kind of feel like I should just get it for myself, like.
And say it's from somebody? Sure.
It's a real problem for me, this whole gift-giving thing. And I'm sorry. I apologize to Martha.
No, I'm sure she loved hearing that answer, though. Hey,
I just don't want her to. She's only 8. I don't want her to feel bad about Christmas.
Oh. No, I think that is a real struggle, is knowing what to get for people.
Some people are really good at it. My wife is really talented at knowing what to get people. She gets people things they didn't even know they wanted.
No, that's a skill set.
Yeah.
Well, that is it. You did it.
Yay.
Thank you so much for being so generous with your time, John. One last
always
thing.
A pleasure.
Our radio pal, Lisa, sent a message saying that she's going to be seeing you in Boulder and wants to thank you for continuing to ask people to wear masks during the show.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really nice. Yeah, it's not. We don't like to be the cops. Obviously, nobody. Well, cops maybe want to be cops, but we don't want to be cops. So it's been great how people have been really concerned about each other's health and all that. That's like, that's great. It's cool, and I know it's a drag to wear a mask to a show, but it means a lot to us.
Yeah, it's a bigger drag not being able to see the band because they had to cancel because they were sick.
Exactly.
So
sure, no, and that's the thing. We had one tour where on the last date of one of the little runs, Dan Miller came down with COVID, and luckily we were, but regrettably, in a way, we could do the show without him. We were able to do a whole show with no Dan Miller. But if it had been me or John or even Marty, I think it would have been pretty close to impossible. So yeah, it kills the show if one of us gets COVID. It's over. So that's a real risk for us.
Well, continue to be healthy and enjoy your downtime before the tour kicks back up.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. Are you guys getting have you got the map of all the international people calling in?
We haven't been doing that so much this year. I've just been playing requests as they come in, but like right away, 6:00 this morning, I was already 40 texts deep. And it's just been pretty much consistently. We've got music for hours going.
That's great.
Yeah, but boy, people, I love it. People are taking days off for this day from work, and
that's insane.
And it's just really, really fun to hear from everybody.
That's so great. It's so flattering. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, maybe something you guys should add on to like a future CD is you guys doing you should let so-and-so off for work because they're listening to They Might Be Giants and they can't come in to work today.
Yeah.
So everybody can have that for their sick call.
Sure.
Call in sick. But thank you so much for spending the over an hour with us this morning.
A pleasure. Yeah, great talking to you guys again.
Yeah,
thank you, John.
Take care.
Thank you.
I hope we get to come out and see you again sometime.
Yes.
That would be
awesome.
You're always welcome.
All right.
Always welcome. Thanks.
Great.
Good night. Goodbye.
Thanks again.
I was going to say good night, but it's only 11. All right. Bye-bye.
Oh, bye now.